And a very good afternoon, everybody, and happy Monday. Welcome into another edition of This Week of Phillies Baseball. I'm your host, James Scorza, with you, and with me, as always, is a group of companions on a very busy very busy weekend for the Fighting Phils. Joey Marks and Connor Ouchida join us here tonight. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing good, James. Wish I could be better after the weekend series, but I'm doing as good. We're still one of the best teams in the major league.
Yeah, absolutely. The most important thing about this series is that probably this is one that we probably can wish that it never happened, and also we can just try to just sit there and just make sure a better series to come out of it. Connor, how are you doing, buddy? Long time no see, man.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I just before we started recording this, I actually I was telling you guys that I just got back from like a weekend or a couple days at the beach, so
Nice.
I'm good and I'm back ready to talk some Phillies baseball, however frustrating it may be. So
Yeah, let's rip the band-aid off, shall we? The one thing we could just try to do is rip that band-aid off because it was a series that I would say that wish that somehow in some way we had a better outing out of it. As we get into our weekly recap, the first portion of the week, it was the Phillies taking on the Atlanta Braves, and actually looked good for maybe a couple innings until something happened along the way, as especially a pitcher by the name of Spencer Strider, also known as a villain here in Philadelphia for the last handful of days, because he decided to hit Bryce Harper in the elbow, and he has missed a couple games due to that elbow strain. And I'm hoping to see him. I think they're going to hopefully bring him back as hopefully as early as tomorrow in their series against the Blue Jays. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But the recap, let's get into the weekend recap of this series. And for the Phillies, it was a bad series to begin with for the Milwaukee Brewers to come in, and the return of Rhys Hoskins for a second time as a Milwaukee Brewer. So my question to you is, as we break down this series, Joey, I'll ask you the first question. What went wrong for this Phillies team in this upcoming series against Milwaukee? What went wrong this weekend for the Fightins?
Uh, Fielding. Like, you got to catch the ball, you got to field it. And there was a lot. I mean, there was a lot of ineptitude in that outfield.
Mm-hmm.
I knew we had struggles with our outfielders, and I knew we need to improve our outfield. But that series against the Brewers showed me that there's not a lot of competency out there. It doesn't matter who, like Weston Wilson. I'm going to say this real clear so everyone can hear this and understand.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen enough of Weston Wilson. Can we just send that guy along back to AAA or whatever? I've seen enough.
Correct, Mundo, my friend. Connor, same question to you. What do you think what do you think went wrong this weekend for this series against Milwaukee over the weekend?
I'd probably say I I I'd probably say fielding as well. Or like at some points it was relief pitching. At some points it was fielding. So I feel like my answer to this question is just yes. Like it just felt like what could go wrong did go wrong,
Right.
and I think that's kind of one of those series where it's like whatever, that's baseball. It happens even to the best teams. So you just gotta flush it and move on.
Yeah, for sure. We got a comment here. Mitch Kovsky, the Dom, also a.k.a. Boss Man of Hardcore Sports, checks in and says, have a great show. And also, like we always do, hit that like and subscribe button to all our channels over at Hardcore Sports Network on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, all that. So hit that like and subscribe button on Hardcore Sports Network. We really do appreciate it. I think the one thing that went wrong this weekend for the Phillies was, like even Joey and you even alluded to, Connor, is that the level of errors that happened on this team this weekend was really a handful. Because you think about early on in the series, the second game of that series, it was just an absolute. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was they literally shit the bed. I'm part of my French here. I know, so I'm gonna try to keep it a PG here, but the thing is that it was 4-0 without even blinking with Jesus Luzardo on the mound. And I think the one thing that really stuck out to me the most was, like, even when your ace on the mound is like a Luzardo actually starts to play like that and also starts to pitch like that and can't find a way to get back into a groove. I think the hardest thing about it was the Brewers came into like one of the hottest teams in baseball, and it showed this weekend. I think that's one of the reasons why it showed for many particular reasons what happened over the weekend. It was not a good series. I really thought they could have done better. It started on Friday, and it just snowballed after that. And I think the one thing that made it even worse was the Sunday game was even more worse than the Saturday game because they had a 2-1 lead. And even Joey had brought up with Weston Wilson an error that was way off the it was like behind the head of Weston Wilson. And then not long after that, Trey Turner muffs a ground ball. And I think like if you're like paid $300, I mean, I don't know how much he's been paid for the next 11 years. I think it's like $300 million. But you got to, you gotta just, I mean, you have to do a better job than that. You gotta make that routine ground ball. That's why you're here and all that too. Mike Green checks in and says Luzardo hasn't pitched well in like 3 games. So yeah, that's true because I haven't been on here in quite a while. The last time he didn't pitch well before this outing on Saturday, it was against the the Sacramento A's or the A's or whatever they're called. They decided, I mean, Luzardo didn't look good in that game, and I think he struggled in another game along the way too. So thanks for the comment there, Mike. I appreciate it. So let's get into the real elephant in the room like we talked about with the errors over the weekend in this weekly recap. So the standout performances, if that was the case, it was more the Brewers were the standout performances this weekend. And the errors came in so many ways before. So it came in a bunch this weekend. So, Joey, I'll ask you the question here too. So what do you think the Phillies need to improve on in this next upcoming series against Toronto to avoid those errors happening again?
Well, first off, those errors should never occur, considering, and I know you can't play perfect, but, you're a Major League Baseball player.
Sure.
And, you brought up about Trey Turner. And, yeah, okay, he's a $300 million man, and Weston Wilson's probably like a $3 million man. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is, doesn't matter what your salary looks like, what your skill set is a Major League ball player.
Sure.
So I can't flip a switch and just say, hey, don't commit another error, because then that's going to play too tight. What I would honestly do is make sure that your offense is still clicking, because, all things being equal, that game on Sunday shifted to 5-2 in the 7th inning. They still
without even a blink.
Right. But my point is that the Phillies still had 3 innings to get back into it. And three runs is not insurmountable for an offense like the Phillies.
Yeah.
And this is going to come down to, I guess, a question that has been lingering in people's minds for the last 2 days. And that is Bryce Harper the reason why our lineup works? Because without Bryce Harper, this offense looks listless. Mm-hmm. It does not look the same. And Mike brought up about how Luzardo has had the past 3 outings have been bad. Mm-hmm. I would say you don't change anything about the starting pitching, because the starting pitching is your gold mine. Mm-hmm. You have to start. You can't rectify the fielding errors with the flip of a switch. So you have to continue to improve your hitting.
Sure.
Especially with Harper not in the lineup right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that stuck out to me the most was that, I mean, it felt like this weekend it was probably one that we can forget here. But Connor, I'll ask you the same question here. Since the Phillies take on the Blue Jays this upcoming series, so how can the Phillies get back on track here in this upcoming series after a disappointing outing over the weekend?
I think it really just starts with kind of all of all those guys kind of looking at each other in the locker room and just telling themselves, whoever we have in the lineup or don't have in the lineup, let's not play over our heads, or let's not try to play over our heads. And I think that's maybe what happened a little bit over this homestand. It was like, oh man, we don't have Bryce now I have to do more. It's like,
Sure.
so sometimes it's just like, no, you don't. Just keep doing what you're doing, and by the guys doing that, they do end up doing more, as odd as that sounds.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, even Mike brings up another good point here. He says, I would say for 3+ years, this outfield hasn't really hit consistently. That's been their issue too. I mean, the level of consistency. I mean, the problem is with this Phillies team. I'm glad he brought it up here because I was going to bring it up here in the other portion of like basically saying not a good weekend at the old ballpark. But the Phillies this weekend, it looked like, I mean, they look like last couple weeks got their hitting back to where they were, and also they were trying to getting their stride back, and also getting back to where they were as a hitting ball club. And this weekend, it looks like they're starting to try to hit 5-run homers again. I don't know if it's just because it's a long 162 season and they got 162 of them, and that's why you'll have your ups and downs. But sometimes it's just like they forget how to play baseball.
Well, on Saturday, James, they needed those 5-run home runs because they were losing by like 16.
Yeah,
at
right.
one point. Like, here's my thing, and I want to touch on Mike's comment. So I had really thought about this. So if this is a World Series caliber team as currently constructed, do you really and I'll ask the both of you, do you really have the faith that Johan Rojas and Marsh and Weston Wilson and Castellanos and Kepler, you really think that any of them, I don't care what combination, any of them, do you think that any of them are World Series caliber outfielders, both in the field and at the plate? James, go ahead, Connor.
I would. That's kind of it's a difficult question for me to answer, only because like all of those guys have had moments where it's like, yes, he is a major league player. Yes, this guy can be a tremendous player, and then there are other moments where it's like where it just feels like that the guys in their outfield are just your typical like 4A guys, like the guys that dominate AAA but suck at the major leagues, and it's just there's no in between.
Yeah, and the reason why I bring that up, James, before you answer, the reason why I bring this up is because someone brought up the other day think about the outfield from 2008. You had Shane Victorino, Jason Worth. You had,
Pat Burrell, Jeff Jenkins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, you had guys that were efficient guys in the outfield and could also put the ball out of the yard.
Sure.
Like, that's the difference. On a consistent basis. I mean, it still rings true to me, the memory of Shane Victorino's grand slam in the playoffs.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's the thing, is like, I don't have the confidence that a guy like Johan Rojas and Marsh,
Brandon
and
Marsh,
Kepler, like that any of these guys are capable of doing that in that same moment.
Yeah, something, Joe, that's a very good question that you brought up here with that. And this is the thing I take out of it, too. And you think about those 2007 to 2011 Phillies teams that had, like you mentioned, Victorino, Pat Burrell, Aaron Rowland, and the list goes on and on about that, too. And I said to myself is that team was more precise. They knew, like, they would not, back then, it was more like see ball, hit ball. Now it's just like, the day and age of baseball, I don't know if it's the analytics that continue to baffle my mind and continue to think analytics needs to be more into the game. But more importantly than anything like that, I don't think this team could be considered to be a World Series contender if they have that level of outfield. I mean, Castellanos is hot and cold. Brandon Marsh is good at times. Kepler, I mean, I wouldn't say he's a big disappointment, but he's been shaky. I mean, but I do understand what you're saying, though, Joe, because I'm with you. And I think that what the Phillies really need to do in these next couple weeks or so is that they have to find that groove again to find what that team had in store in 2022 and also try to figure out still try to figure out. I mean, there's a lot more games left to go in this season, but most importantly than anything like that, it's gonna show what kind of a series it's gonna be as the series. I mean, this is gonna be not this series, but the next handful of months are going to tell you all you need to know too.
Yeah. And my feeling is you know we brought it up on our show on Saturday, James, with the surplus with pitchers.
Yeah.
You know, the Phillies, unlike other years, the Phillies have the assets to be able to fix this. They do, but they have to go out and do it. Dave Dombrowski has to go out and do it, and not at Austin, Hayes.
Yeah, right.
None of that. You need to come in and you need to bring somebody that is reliable. That is a guy that's going to be that. Okay, we got Castellanos. Then when he's hot, great. Then this other guy, and then this stud that's going to also hit the ball out of the yard.
You know what's interesting, Joe? I mean, it's a good thing you brought that up about Castellanos too. Remember back like a few years back that they were interested in looking to try to get Luis Garcia from the White Sox. I wonder if that's still on the table to think that he could be a
Robert,
good.
You mean?
Luis Robert, thank you, Luis Garcia.
Yep.
Thank Luis Robert, appreciate it. With Luis Robert, I mean, the thing about it too is maybe the Phillies should still look into that to see if the White Sox want to. I mean, look, I know the White Sox last year were horrible and they were god awful. I mean, I'm going to be going out of my way and trying to get either him or the White Sox. I mean, not White Sox, but the bad Rockies team that they have. But I mean, like it could be a good fit. But then again, I mean, honestly, I don't even know who's out there that could be a good fit for this Phillies team at this point, because that's where Dombrowski has to put his big boy pants on and try to figure out what he has in store with these couple players too.
Yeah, for sure. But at least we have an option with the assets we have. That's not always been the case.
Yeah. All right, let's get into our player spotlight, and this is basically a little segment here that we talk about the day and age of the Phillies sports team, but we talked about it early on about what the Phillies did over the weekend and also what they did last week. But like I said, it came at a cost last week on the first game of the series against the Diamondbacks, and bear with me, I'm still dealing with laryngitis. And Spencer Strider decided to plunk Bryce Harper on the elbow to begin that series, and after that, it felt like the wheels started to come off for this Phillies team. So, Joe, I'll ask you this most important question here. With Bryce Harper now, I mean, we expect him to be back here tomorrow, hopefully for that Toronto series, but what was your immediate reaction when you hear this news about Strider trying to we all know retaliation will be key, but what would you, if you were the Phillies pitcher right now in that when that thing happened between Harper and Strider, I mean, what would you do in this day and age of baseball to try to retaliate?
I would hold it over the Braves' head. You're living rent-free in the Braves' head anyhow, with having knocked them out of the playoffs the last 2 years, taking the division away from them. You now have a new little nugget that you can live rent-free in their head by knowing that one of their stars is going to get plunked. You just don't know when, and you just don't know who. We got to play them a lot more times, and some of those games later are going to matter more. And so my opinion is, okay, let's make that wild card beneficial to us by doing it when it matters more, not in May when it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Connor, same question to you. I mean, what would you do if you were the Phillies pitching that night to try to retaliate back to the Braves after plunking one of your top players for the Phillies?
I wouldn't have probably wouldn't have done anything like
Mhm.
while the game was going on. I probably would have been on the top step of the dugout though, like just like kind of John with Strider being like, "Yo, dude, what are you doing?"
Right.
And I don't know if you guys saw this, but in his post game comments, he said it wasn't intentional, but if and then if he has that same thought process, I'd be like, all right, but throw the ball over the plate. It's been in the same spot for 100 years. Throw the ball over the plate. That's Bryce Harper.
Yeah, I mean that's the most important key too, because you guys both nailed it on the head about what the Phillies need to do here in regard to retaliation. And I know it's a day and age of baseball that you don't see like Nolan Ryan versus Ross Ventura and Robbie Ventura, and it charges the mound, and it's a big old fight and all that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I know it's a different day and age of baseball. I mean, if this happened like 10 years ago, maybe like probably 10, 15 years ago, I would see some like retaliations, like, and also probably charges, like the mounds will be clearing and also warnings to be there. But I think it's probably, like, I even brought it up on the show on Saturday with me and Joey show on the Passion F Sports show. It seems like they kind of police themselves nowadays to figure out, like, you think about, like, if there was actually, when there was a plunking like Strider did to Harper, like, I think they policed themselves to avoid like suspension, and also try to like not like, I guess what they'll try to do is try to not let it affect the game as much as it affects. I mean, the fans were affected by it, but I think the one thing the players want to try to do is try to keep it a little even keel and try to. I mean, if they take on the Braves again, I would expect probably a little bit of a retaliation, but I wouldn't know. So,
Well, James, I'll ask this.
Sure.
Like we say this all the time because in the last 3 or 4 years, this has been the hot topic. Is other than the Dodgers,
yeah,
who in our division is our biggest competition?
that's
Yeah, I
true.
get it. Mets have Soto, but here's my feeling. We all say it. We all know it. The Mets are going to Met. At some point in time, they're going to Met.
Yeah.
So, but the Braves are always somehow there. And for
No,
that
they're like an
reason,
annoying zombie that won't die, or it's like Shaun of the Dead.
yeah, it's like they're going to be there. You don't want them to be, but you know that it's going to be an inevitability.
Yeah.
And in that case, we handled the Dodgers. We live rent free in both these teams' heads when it comes down to big time games. And I just say, okay, people are plunking Harper. People on the Braves are plunking Harper. If I'm Acuna and Olsen, I'm looking at Strider going, do not hit that dude again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am not taking a bullet to the top of my head because you can't aim a pitch. Because
Yeah,
and that
definitely.
used to happen. You brought up the olden days. That I remember hearing about that back in the 93 team.
Oh yeah.
Because that was when they didn't police themselves. That's when a pitcher could be judge, jury, and executioner on the mound.
Mm-hmm.
You hit one of my guys, okay, where you want it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick checks in and says, "What's up to everybody?"
What's up, Nick?
He also says a great trio right here on Hardcore Sports Network, and asking where Mitch Kofsky was. Mitch, I think does. I mean, he does a lot more stuff on the Phillies on Phillies Sports and Hardcore Sports Network, but he does. I think he just. I haven't got him on this show, quite frankly, because I think it's probably like, I think he wants me to handle the show more importantly than anything like that. So, I mean, I'll try to get him on eventually, but I think it's, I mean, like I said, Fly Like an Eagle is his flagship show, and he's got some other shows on the network. So I'm guessing that this is I guess this so happily has to be my show to make it happen, though. But no, but all is good, though. I appreciate you chiming in, Nick. I do appreciate it. So hit that like and subscribe button on Facebook and Twitter, and also YouTube, on all the social media platforms, like even Mitch alluded to too. So yeah, so I think the last thing we'll talk about this player spotlight here is that there wasn't a lot. There wasn't a. I guess there wasn't a lot to talk about this weekend over the Phillies. That I mean, that was probably the big storyline that happened over the weekend was that Strider hitting Bryce Harper. So I guess the other thing too is that I guess what the Phillies need to do this weekend too, more than anything, especially this week and also the upcoming series against the Pirates. The one thing that the Phillies need to do is need to start to get their footing back after a very lousy outing over the weekend.
You brought up a player spotlight, and I know we don't want to always, me and you, when we've done the Flyers post game, we never want to give like the opposing team its due, but
yeah,
you got to give Rhys Hoskins his due.
Yeah,
definitely.
I was
That's
actually
true.
going to mention that. I didn't want to interrupt you guys, but yeah, Rhys Hoskins. You want to talk about a player?
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
That's the guy to spotlight. I know he's a Milwaukee Brewer now, but he'll always have a special place in my heart.
Him and I would say Terang, because it didn't seem like you could get Terang out very often.
And Cheerio too. I mean, Cheerio was like another Ricky Weeks or another Ryan Braun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, do you guys have anything to add before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. So let's get into the bullpen watch, and I mean, not a lot to talk about on this bullpen watch on this Monday afternoon. But there was only one storyline that happened over the weekend, and that was Taijuan Walker moving back to the bullpen again. It kind of feels like it's Groundhog Day with Taijuan Walker. He's pitching 1 minute, and he's back in the bullpen. Now he's back to pitching again. He's back in the bullpen. It's like I feel like I'm watching Groundhog Day with Bill Murray saying it's Groundhog Day for 5 billion times until he's blue in the face. But most importantly than anything like that, though, Connor, I'll ask you this question. With Taijuan Walker being moved to the bullpen, would this help this team, help this bullpen after losing Jose Alvarado and early on in the season?
I do believe it will. I think that Taijuan brings a certain level of like professionalism. Not there isn't professional guys in that bullpen, but he brings a certain level of like major league pitching experience that can really help out like the year like long relief guys, especially because a lot of long relievers are former starters, so they can kind of bounce ideas off of him, and guys like Strom and Romano can also learn from Taijuan Walker as well. So I do think it would help for sure. But time will tell if it works out. Obviously, I hope it does, because he's essentially the most expensive reliever the Phillies have.
Yeah, I think that'll be the most important question too. So, Joe, same question to you. Taijuan Walker moving to the bullpen. Does this help the Phillies out a little bit, or you think the Phillies need to add more piece in the bullpen?
Well, I don't think this is the solution. I think this helps the Phillies bullpen right now, because for those guys like Strom and Romano and Ross and possibly Ruiz and whatnot, Kirkring, like they've been used and now like a lot. And you got to think Alvarado being down, and I don't even know how much you're going to really get out of him once he comes back.
Right.
But that's going to be for a while. So right now you got to kind of plug the holes now. So Taijuan kind of gives some length to that bullpen, which, I'm not going to go overboard and say that Taijuan gives you like this enormous talent burst or talent boost in the bullpen, but it gives length to these other, relievers that are going to need it.
Yeah.
And so if you have a game that's like 7-0 against you or for you, whichever, Taijuan could come in and pitch 3 innings and you save some of those arms for when it matters, because you need those guys You don't need them as much now. I mean, you need them now, but you need them more in October. Let's be real. We are trying to make sure we can get to October, and burning those relievers' arms out too early isn't going to help us with that.
No, I don't. I don't think it is either. Because you think about the times when the Phillies desperately needed some bullpen help. I mean, yeah. I mean, to allude to your point and also to allude to Connor's point here too, Joe. So I think the thing that it can help for the Phillies for now, but I think when the Phillies need to do in the trade deadline, when that gets closer and closer, you have to find another player in that bullpen. I mean, obviously there is a couple pitchers out there that still are could be a possibility. The guy with the A's, but the difference was the A's were asking for too much money and also players back in return. I mean, that could be a hit or miss. There's a lot of other pitchers out there that could be a strong possibility, but most importantly, that's going to be the most important key. If they can find a way to make sure it happens, and whatever the circumstances is about what Taijuan Walker does in the bullpen. I mean, when Aaron Nola comes back, I mean, I don't know who you're going to DFA, but that's another topic for another time, and also time will tell for that too.
Well, I mean, you got to remember that there's two guys that are out there right now that are tops on being possible, trade bait. And that's the closer for the Twins and the closer for the Orioles. Now, that being said, do I think the Orioles are going to be sellers? Yeah, maybe.
Probably.
But here's the thing. If you are sellers, if you're the Orioles, then what is that doing to the rest of your young core? It's telling them you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's the message that the GM wants to send to his players.
Yeah.
But that being said, those two, and you brought up Mason Miller.
Mason Miller, yeah.
Yeah. And as much as I would want him, I'm not willing to give up the sun, the moon, and the stars for that guy.
I ain't Daryl Morey in it.
No.
Yeah.
So Connor, I think I asked you this question already, but if I didn't, please forgive me if I did.
No, you're good.
So, since we're talking about the bullpen here, that the needs of the bullpen here, I mean, you think anybody could help this bullpen out before we move on?
I think a guy like Yohan Duran in Minnesota or Griffin Jacks in Minnesota could really help really help this bullpen out tremendously. But time will tell if Double D makes another move. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I guess the last thing we'll say about this bullpen watch, too, is that even though Taijuan Walker is in the bullpen, so the most important thing is that if the bullpen can continue to go back into that road, that's the most important thing. That if the bullpen can get back to where they were the last couple of years, I mean, it'll be interesting to see as we get closer and closer to the end of the show here. All right, so let's get into our minor league report real quickly, though. There's nothing to write home about with the minor league report, but there is one player coming up this week for the Phillies in retrospect for Zach Wheeler and also for
Aaron Nola.
Sorry, my cat's doing crazy things right now. So Aaron Nola, and also, I mean, the first thing I'll say is that Andrew Painter is 1-2 and has a 1-2 has a record this year with Lehigh Valley and has an ERA of 3.09. But Mick Abel makes his second start here. So Connor, I'll ask you the first. Mick Abel makes his second start of his second MLB start. So Joey, what are your expectations for Mick Abel in this second start in Phillies Pinstripes?
Well, I don't expect him to replicate what he did in his debut, but I do expect him to be good. And depending on when he starts, whether it's with the Pirates or whether it's with the Blue Jays. And I'll tell you this, I kind of like to have it against the Pirates. I like to have Mick Abel, Paul Schemes, dude. I want to see that again.
It
That
could
was
happen. It could
Oh, I
happen.
know. But I mean, that is my ideal purpose. Is that like Mick Abel is a guy who I'm still uncertain. Is this Jekyll or Hyde? Is this real? Like, is this guy real? Um, because he comes from a situation where he struggled. 2 years prior, he had a bit of he had an injury, and then he had issues with his attitude towards things. So he had to mature. Now, look, he is a kid. He's only 23. So the idea that this guy is maturing faster and he's getting up here sooner, it's only going to help him in his growth.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing where he plays, as far as like whether it's in Toronto or Pittsburgh, and to see how he handles now the debut's gone, so the dust is off of you. You're here now. So now what can you do when you're called upon? Can you still perform to a high level?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Connor, same question to you. What's your expectations for McAble in his second start for the Phillies this coming week? I think it's going to be Wednesday. He's going to take the mound on Wednesday against Toronto, so he won't be seeing Skeens again in that upcoming pitcher's duel again this weekend when the Pirates take on the Phillies this weekend. But Connor, question to you, same question to you. I asked Joey. So, what are your
Yeah.
expectations for McAble in his second start as a Philly?
Oh, my expectations for him are to just not worry about the expectations being like placed on him, and just just treat this start like a game of catch with JT. Like, don't even like focus on the hitter. It's literally just like a game of catch, and that's really all pitching is when you really boil it down. And that's what I think a lot of times people like forget to really like put that thought process into practice. There we go. I was trying to get my thoughts together. So
No worries, it's all good. I apologize for my cat being a pain in the rear end, but
yeah, you're
you
good.
can consider your buddy.
He just needs to like just focus on playing catch with JT, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is that what McAble, and I guess we'll allude to in our final topic of the day. If he still has that same outing, if he has that same level of outing that he had in his first start, I mean that would be something to keep a close eye on, especially what he did in his first outing, and probably he'll be here for the long haul, especially depending on if it was Taijuan Walker or Mick or what they do with Aaron Nola. They may probably will move. I wouldn't think they'll move Aaron Nola to the bullpen, but more importantly than anything like that, they could find. I would say that it's a good problem to have for right now. But once like Noah is finally healthy again, and also what Taijuan Walker does in the bullpen, I mean, like you have some pieces there that could fit the bill. More importantly than anything like that. All right, before we get out of here, we're gonna do basically this is our final topic of the night. It's called upcoming series preview. That means it's the probable pitchers between the Phillies and the Blue Jays. They don't have anything lined up for the Pirates series, but for the first game of this 3-game set between the Phillies and the Toronto Blue Jays. The first one will start tomorrow at 7:07. Christopher Sanchez goes for the Phillies, and his record this season is 4-1 this season, and has an ERA of 3.32. And also has 70 strikeouts on the year. And he'll be opposed by Bowden Francis, who is 2-6 this season, and has a 5.04 ERA. As for the second game we brought up with McAble just a couple minutes ago, he'll get his second start of the season, and he is 1-0 this season, has 9 strikeouts, and doesn't have anything with his ERA. So he'll be opposed by Jose Barrios, who is 2-2 this season and has a 3.86 earned run average this season for the Blue Jays. And the final game of the series, it will be Jesus Luzardo taking the mound. I mean, I would expect it was not going to be Zach Wheeler, but bear with us. Zach Wheeler is going to be out for the rest of the series because his wife is on. I mean, he's going to be on the paternity list because his wife is expecting to have a baby within the next couple days or so. So I would expect Wheeler to be back for the weekend series for the Pirates. And speaking of Jesus Luzardo, he is 5-1 this season and has an ERA of 3.58. And he'll be opposed by Chris Bassett, who has a 5-3 record this year and has a 3.80 ERA. So that's your probable pitchers for this weekend. And so my question to you to wrap up this show here is, so what are your expectations for this upcoming series against the Blue Jays and upcoming series against the Pirates? Joey, I'll start with you first.
So I want to touch on the Mick Abel Barrios. That's going to be a good matchup.
Yeah.
I don't care if Barrios is 2-2. That's a good pitcher.
Yeah, he's good. He's really good.
So once again, Mick Abel gets put into a matchup where it's going to be tough. And it's good because it gives a litmus test for what this kid's made of. Overall, the Pirates and the Blue Jays aren't setting the world on fire for either clubs. The Phillies, this could be, especially for Toronto, this could be a get-right series. And I feel like it could just continue on into Pittsburgh. So I'm going to go 5-1.
Ooh.
On the 6-game series. These two series.
6-game road trip.
Stretch. Yeah.
5 out of 6. 5-1 on that 6 games road skid.
Yep.
Nice. I like it. Connor, same question to you. What are your expectations for this upcoming week for the Titans?
Oh man, I'd probably say 5-1, 4-2. That would definitely be a serviceable record on the road trip for me. I think that both the Blue Jays and the Pirates could be back-to-back get-right series, like James was or like Joe was saying. My fault.
No, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I just think that I think that both these teams are kind of on the struggle bus right now. So I think if the Phillies can mash their way to a 4-2 or 5-1 road trip, that would be perfect. Obviously, if they go 6-0, that would just be chef's kiss. I mean, just awesome. But
yeah,
4-2 or 5-1 for me.
Yeah, I'm in the same helm as 4-2 and 5. I mean, 6-1. I mean, 5-1 will be a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a little much still, but I mean, if the Phillies can finally get back into a groove again, I will be okay with 5-1. I'm in the same kind of boat as you are, Connor, with 4-2, and I think that would be a big step forward, especially after a disappointing outing over the weekend. All right, that's going to wrap it up here for this edition of this week at Phillies Baseball. Connor, I forgot to ask you this earlier, but where can people see you next for your upcoming shows?
Upcoming shows will be on my my podcast YouTube channel, Sports Live in the 215. And that's my Twitter and Instagram and Facebook handle as well. Sports Live in the 215 on all social media. So be on the lookout for that. I actually on Saturday I just had Jack Fritz on my podcast. So,
nice, very cool.
Your listeners, if you guys want to check out that episode, that would be really really cool. It was a great interview. Fritz was awesome. Thank you guys for having me on. This was so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You're free to join us at any time, my brother. You did a great job, my friend.
Thank you.
And Joey, I know I know I'll see you probably on Fly Like an Eagle, and also we got some other stuff coming up later on in the next couple weeks or so, because it's around this time that we'll be talking about Philly fam legends. We'll talk about that, all things included. But Joey, real quickly though, who do we have coming up this week on the Pass and F Sports Show, just in case if my voice starts to crap out again before Friday?
Well, let's hope not. But
Yeah.
we have the boss man from our sister network, Stream Punk Entertainment, Scott Churchson,
Nice.
joining us. We're going to talk a little New York Philadelphia rivalry, and we're going to talk about all things Mets, Giants, Rangers. Maybe we'll throw in the Islanders and Yankees, but I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
So Scott's going to join us. It's going to be fun. Also, just as parting, a friend of the show, friend of me and James, reached out. This coming Saturday is Delco Day. So for all you Delconians, go check out my buddy over at Dolan's, PJ Dolan, at 24 East Sellers Avenue. He's having a bash of a time on this Saturday, 24 East Sellers Avenue in Ridley Park, Dolan's for Delco Day.
Delco Day. Yeah, that absolutely too. And also, speaking of guests that we had on our show, Connor, if you did not notice, but we did an interview with Flyers announcer Jim Jackson over the week, talking all things Philadelphia Flyers. So if you didn't check it out, it's on our page, Hardcore Sports Network, Pass and F Sports Show, and I think Stream Punk Entertainment for everything about that, talking all things pucks, also talking and what's that, Connor?
I saw that interview. Great job, guys. It was such an entertaining listen.
Appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate you. All right, that's gonna wrap it up here for tonight for this edition of This Week at Phillies Baseball. For Joey Marks, for Connor Ouchida, I'm James Scorza, and this has been This Week at Phillies Baseball. We're back at it again next week. Until then, have a good day, everybody. Have a good week. Stay well, and let's go Phils.